In this video, we are going to illustrate how to create a dashboard like this one. So this is a dashboard for a coffee shop sales data set, and we will see how to create such a dashboard with different techniques that involve using pivot tables, formulas, and Power Query as well. So as you can see here, we've got some slicers on the left hand side, and the dashboard is fully interactive. We've got a revenue summary, donut chart, we have a revenue by category bar chart, and we've got top 10 selling products. We've got a revenue by state map chart here, and we have a customer experience section where we have a customer rating in stars, and we have calculated the average customer wait time and the wait time per state in the different states in the US. I'm hoping that the techniques illustrated here on this dashboard would be useful for you and will give you some ideas to implement on your own dashboards. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so we're starting from a blank workbook. We just have a screenshot of the dashboard that we created so that we would have a reference for what we want to create. So now let's start creating the dashboard from scratch. We'll start first by choosing the color palette for our dashboard. And we can do that by inspecting the logo for our company. So if you are presented with a project to create a dashboard and you're asked to have something that has its colors matching the colors of the company or the color palette of the company. If the company has not given you a certain color palette, you can certainly try to match the color palette of their logo so that the dashboard would look professional. So here is the logo for the company that we're creating the dashboard for, which is Nice Beans. This is the name of the coffee shop. So first I'll just get the color of this very dark brown bean here, and I do that using an application called Power Toys that you can download from the Microsoft Store, because it helps me extract the hex code for any color on the screen by pressing the Windows key, Shift and C, and then clicking on the color that I need to extract the hex code for. So I've extracted this color here, and this is what I'm going to base my color palette on. So I've extracted one color and I want to get the other matching colors. So I can do that by going to the Adobe color wheel, for example. So I just search here on Google Adobe color wheel, and I'll go to the Adobe color wheel here, and I'll start by inputting my color here, the hex code for the color that I extracted here in the middle color here. I'm pressing enter. And as you can see here, it will give me some suggestions for complementary colors that would complement my color. So you can choose any color palette that you would like. So I chose here this shades color palette because I wanted my color palette to be shades of brown, since it's a coffee shop and it's the color of coffee beans. But you can certainly choose any kind of color palette that you would like from all these options, or create a custom color palette for yourself. So you can copy the codes of these colors to a notepad, for example, and then after you do that, you're going to set the colors for your workbook so that you would have these colors built in your workbook, and you would have your workbook themed by this color palette. So to do that, you're gonna go to the page layout section here and then go to colors. You can see here that I created a color palette here for the coffee shop. You can go to customize colors to create one from scratch. Again, I'll call it coffee shop 2 since I already have a coffee shop one. And then for the colors, I'll start with the base color, which is the very dark brown here. So on accent 1, I'll go to more colors and I'll just paste the code for that color. And then I can start pasting the codes for the other colors as well. So I'll go again and I'll paste the code of the second color. I'm just pasting the codes that we have here, right? So I'm just copying and pasting the codes, clicking OK. And I'll do that for the third color as well. And these codes could be different. These colors could be different from the ones that you chose because you might have chosen a different color palette, and this is okay. This is just an individual difference in design or taste. And I'll just keep the green color, this green color as well, because also Office is suggesting a color to complement these colors as well, because we only had 5 colors here, so we only entered accents 1 to 5. For accent 6, Office or Excel has suggested a color that would complement these colors, and the green seems okay, so we'll just leave that here, and we'll just save that, and we'll leave the hyperlink and followed hyperlink, and we'll just save our color palette. So now we have a color palette here, and it's almost the same color palette that I created here. Perhaps the order of the colors could be different. I might have ordered the colors differently on the first one here, but they are pretty much the same colors, and this is absolutely okay. So now we've created our color palette. Let's start importing our data. So to import our data, we're going to use Power Query to import our data. So we'll go to the data tab on the ribbon here. Our data is in a comma separated value file or a CSV file. So go to data, and then we're going to import data from a CSV file here, and we're going to navigate to the folder for the file. And here is our file here, coffeeshop dataset. We're going to import that, and this will import the file using Power Query. We're not going to load it right away because we want to do some transformations on it. So we'll click on transform data. So after clicking on transform data, we will have our data here in the Power Query editor, and we can click on any cell in the data and then press Ctrl and A on our keyboard to select all the columns, and then go to transform, and we can do an automatic detection of all the data types for all the columns, just to try to detect the data types and try to make it a bit easier for us. So if you click here on detect data type, basically Power Query will have a go at detecting the data type for all the columns. And then we can start doing further edits or further changes to the data types if we're not happy with the automatic detection of Power Query. For the date column here, sometimes, because this column is formatted according to the international way of formatting the dates, which is day, month, year. So if you're using a US formatted computer, if your dates are formatted according to the US way, which is month, day, year, then you might need to do a data type change by right-clicking and then change type, and then click on using locale. So this way you would choose, for example, English United Kingdom, because in the UK they format the dates according to day, month, year. So you might need to do that and click OK if your computer is following the US way of typing the dates, so that you wouldn't get an error. Because otherwise, if you select this column here and you would select the data type for date, you might get an error on this column. So I'm just letting you know, if you try to do that and get an error, you can change data type according to the UK locale, for example, so that it would detect the data type correctly and detect that it is a date. Let's look at the other columns here. The sales order ID is a text. The unit price, this can be a currency since it's a price, and the cost as well. The unit cost is a currency. We'll make it a currency. So sometimes the automatic data type detection that Power Query does not detect the data types 100% correct. The product ID, for example, shouldn't be a number. It should be just a text, because the ID numbers are not numbers that you would do arithmetic operations on. So they should be just texts. It's a better practice to make them a text. And then there is also the product name. It's a text. The product category, the order type. The order type is just a reference for either online or in store. So 1 represents online and 2 represents in store. And we'll create another column to say that explicitly. But since these numbers also do not undergo any arithmetic operations like addition or subtraction, so we'll just make them a text as well. And then we've got the state here, And we've got the payment method. So they're both text and this is okay. The discount applied, this is a percentage and Excel has detected that correctly, or Power Query has detected that correctly. The customer wait time in seconds, it's detected the data type correctly, and the customer rating as well. We're going to calculate the average customer rating, so this should stay as a number. So this is a rating between 1 and 5. So let's create some extra columns as well to make some calculations on this data set that will help us do the calculations easier when creating pivot tables, for example. So add some calculated columns to our data set. The first calculated column we're going to add is a sales amount column. So the sales amount column is going to be simply by multiplying the order quantity by the unit price. So we'll add a column and it's going to be a custom column. We're going to call it sales amount. We're going to call it sales amount, and this custom column will be by multiplying the order quantity by the unit price. And we'll click OK. And as you can notice, we've created that column, but this column should get the data type of currency because this is in dollars or in pounds or whatever the currency that we would like to make. And we will also create a total cost column. So this will be by multiplying the unit costs by the order quantity. So this is the total cost for the order. And we'll do that by going as well to the add column tab here, going to custom column, and we'll create a total cost column here. And this is going to be by multiplying the unit cost by the order quantity. And we've created that column and we'll make it a currency as well. Let's also create another column which is going to be the discount amount. And this is going to be by multiplying the discount percentage applied by the sales amount. So we'll go again to add column here, go to custom column, and this is going to be the discount amount. So this is going to be the amount of the discount, not the percentage, right? So we have the percentage here as the discount applied. We'll multiply that by the sales amount to get the discount amount. And this will also be a currency. And we'll also create a column for the order type. The order type is either in-store or online. 1 refers to in-store and 2 refers to online. And for that, we're going to create a conditional column using Power Query. So we're going to go to add column, and then it's going to be a conditional column. And the name of the column is going to be in-store or online. So if the order type is equal to 1, then it's going to be in-store, else it's going to be online. And we're going to click OK here. And as you can see here, we managed to create that column as well. And we'll make it a text as well. So I believe our data is ready here to be exported to a table, to an Excel table. So go to close and load and then click on close and load to. And then we'll choose to load it to a table in a new worksheet and click OK. All right, so now our data has been imported here. And of course, if we need to make any changes to the data using Power Query, we can always go back to Power Query by going to data here. And then under get data, we'll click on launch Power Query editor, and we can go back and make changes to our data if need be. All right, so now that we've imported our data set into an Excel table, let's start prepping our dashboard worksheet. So start by renaming it to dashboard, and then we will remove the grid lines here from our worksheet. So we'll go to view and then untick grid lines. And then to change the background color of the grid, we're going to choose the cells here and we're going to change their color to this color here, to this accent 1 or accent 4. They're all dark browns with different shades of dark browns, but I think this is the one that is close to this one. Anyways, you can change it to any color that you want, but I want the background to be dark, and then we will have these light shapes here, light colored shapes here, so that this would complement the color of the dark brown. Now let's start inserting these light colored shapes here. So I'll go to insert and then shapes, and I'll insert a rectangular shape here. You can also choose a different shape if you want. You can make it oval, for example, or any other shape. But in my case, I'll make it a rectangular one, and we'll make it a light colored shape here. So I chose a certain light brown color here. So this is the hex code for the color here. So I'm going to change the color of the shape fill to be this light colored brown. So I'm going to go to more fill colors, and I'm going to paste the code for this color, and this is going to be the color of my shape here. And as you can see here, it's the same color that we have here. We can also insert the logo to put it in the same position as this one. So here is the logo, and the logo will be included with the files that you can download from the description below. So go to insert and then pictures, and from this device, and we'll just navigate to the logo here, double click on it to insert it. So this logo is going to go nicely with this color here, and this light colored brown color here, or off-white color, is going to go nicely with this dark background. So we've inserted the logo, and now we can start creating the other shapes here. So the other shapes, these other shapes are going to be sized based on your chart, and their sizes can vary really, but you can just try to adjust them as much as possible to match the size of your chart and to make sure that they fit your chart. And you can start using the alignment tools as well to align them with each other as much as possible. So I can just copy this shape here. So copy and paste, or you can also hold the control button and click and drag, and then release your left mouse click, and this will also copy your shape. And if you hold the shift button as well, it will copy it being aligned as well with the other shape. So now we've copied our shape here, and as you can see here, it's a little bit smaller than the other one. We can just create the shapes quickly, and then we can adjust them later here. So we'll have this other shape for this bar chart, and then we'll have another shape here for the map chart. So here I'm trying to create the placeholders for our charts, and we'll have another shape for our top 10 selling products, and we'll have another shape as well for the customer experience section here. And we can then size the shapes later and try to align them with each other as much as possible. So as you can see here, we've created our shapes. Let's just extend the size of these shapes a little bit more, and these as well, so that we can get them to almost match the sizes of the shapes in the screenshot. All right, so let's start creating our pivot tables to do the calculations. And actually, before creating our pivot tables, because we have here a month and year slicer, and I prefer to have a month and year column on my data set, which you can get by either inserting a new column in your data set and using the text function to extract the month and the year, or the method that I prefer in this case, because our data comes from Power Query, is that we do it in Power Query. So we'll go back again to Power Query, we'll go to data, get data, and then launch Power Query editor. And here on our data set, we'll highlight the order date column, and we'll add a column, and we'll go to date here and add a year column. So this is going to be our year column here. And we can also add a month column. So go back again here to the order date and then date, and we'll add the name of the month here. So this is going to be the name of the month. So as you can see here, it's added a column with the name of the month, which is the long name of the month, but I prefer the shorter form of the name. So I'll highlight this column here and then go to transform, and then I'll extract the first 3 characters. We'll put 3 here as the count of the characters to extract, and this will extract the first 3 characters from the month, and this will give us the short form of the month name. We can also add the quarter, but for the purpose of our analysis here, we won't be using the quarter anyways, so I'll just close and load and close and load again. So as you can see here, now on this dataset worksheet here, we do have the month name and the year built into our raw data so that we can use it in our analysis. All right, so let's start creating our sheet where we're going to do our calculations and create our pivot tables, because usually a dashboard would contain 3 layers or 3 sheets. One where you have your data set or raw data, and then another one where you have your dashboard, and a third one where you have your calculations and pivot tables done there. So we're going to create a new sheet. We're going to name it pivot tables, or you can name it calculations, whatever. And before creating our pivot tables, let's make sure our data set, the table containing our data set, has an easy name to remember, because we're going to use that name when inserting the pivot table, and it's going to be easier than just highlighting the whole table each time. So here it's called table underscore coffee underscore shop underscore dataset. Let's just give it an easy name. So I'll name it TBL sales, and this is an easier name for the table. And then here on the pivot tables worksheet, we're going to insert a pivot table, and we're going to start by inserting the pivot table for the top 10 selling products. So I'm going to insert a new pivot table from a table or range, and it's going to be inserted from TBL sales, and it's going to be in the existing worksheet, which is the pivot tables worksheet in cell C4. That's okay. Let's click OK here, and as you can notice, now we have the pivot table inserted here, and on that pivot table we're going to have the top 10 products by sales amount. So we're going to put the product name here on the rows section, and we're going to put the sales amount on the summation of values section here, and then we're going to filter that by a value filter, which is the top 10, and we're going to filter by the top 10 items by sum of sales amount, and there is our pivot table here having the top 10 selling products. And we can change the number formatting for the sales amount to make it a currency by right clicking and going to value field settings, number format, and we'll make it a currency, and in this case I'll make it a dollars and with 0 decimal places, and click OK here, click OK again, and now we have it formatted as a currency. Now let's insert our chart here to create the top 10 selling products chart. So I'll just highlight any cell on my pivot table, go to insert, and then here I'll insert a 2D bar chart here. I'll choose a 2D bar chart, and I'll remove this legend here, and I'll remove the grid lines as well, and I'll also remove these buttons by right clicking on them and then hide all field buttons on chart. And I'll remove also the x-axis. I'll just click on it and click on delete to remove it. And then here I'll change the coloring of the chart. I'll make it this dark brown shade here, and I'll name it top 10 selling products. And I'll also remove the background and the border color or the fill color on the border color. I'll select my chart here and either right click and click on format chart area, or you can click on control and 1 on your keyboard, and then you'll get this format chart area, and you'll just under the fill you choose no fill, and under the border you choose no line, and this way the chart is transparent and will show on the white shape behind it. So I'll just select my chart and cut it by clicking on Control and X on my keyboard, and then paste it here, Control and V to paste. And as you can notice here, now we managed to paste the chart above the shape here, and we can also select our objects, which are the chart and the shape, better by selecting any of the objects, going to shape format, and then going to the selection pane, and we're actually selecting our rectangle or shape here, and there is our chart as well. So this is the chart, this is our shape. We can select one of them, press and hold Control and select the other, and we can align them We can align their centers just to make them aligned better. And it's a good practice to rename the chart or rename your objects in general, because this makes it easier for you to identify them in the selection pane list. So I'll just name this chart here top 10 products chart. And then here for the shape, this is rectangle 14. I'll make it top 10 products shape. And we can increase the size of the chart perhaps just a little bit here and move it again. We're actually moving the shape right now, so I'll just select the shape on the chart and align them again, and I can align the align middle and align center as well. This looks good. And actually we've forgotten a little detail, which is to make sure that the chart is sorted in descending order to make it easier to read. So I'll go back to my pivot tables and then I'll select any cell in my pivot table, and to make it arranged in a descending order, I'll actually have to sort it smallest to largest, sort the values smallest to largest, or sort them in ascending order to make them in descending order on the chart. So if I do that, this will sort the chart in a descending order, and I need to also right click and add the data labels. So I forgot to add the data labels on the chart as well. So now we have the chart created here and it's looking more or less the same. So I've sorted it here in a descending order, but here it's sorted in ascending order. It's up to you really. You can do any order that you would like. And now we'll just group the chart and the shape together just to make it easier to move them. So I'll select them here on the selection pane, select and then hold the control button and select the second object and then group. And this will move both objects at the same time because they will be moved as one group. All right, so let's create the second pivot table that we need here. And before creating it, actually, I'll just give this a little bit of a label here. Top 10 selling products. Just give it a little label just to know what we're doing here. And we can also bold the font just to make it stand out a bit. And now we'll create another pivot table, which is the sales by category pivot table. To create this sales or revenue by category, sales is the same as revenue, guys. So revenue by category or sales by category. And actually we had this dark shade of brown here on the charts, and it's a different shade from this one. So I can actually just change it back to this shade of brown. I think this looks better and it looks identical to what we have here. So just stick with that. And then here for the revenue by category, we'll just create another pivot table here. So insert a pivot table from table range, and it's going to be from the TBL sales. So here I'm going to put the product category on the rows section, and then we'll put the sales amount on the summation and values section here. And we'll also change number formatting by right click and value field settings, number format, and it's going to be a currency. It's going to be United States dollars, 0 decimal places. Click OK and OK again here. So as you can see here, now we have this pivot table here for the sales per category created. So now I'll create the chart. After selecting any cell in the pivot table, I'll go to the insert tab on the ribbon, and then I'll insert a 2D bar chart here. I'll remove the grid lines. So the regular stuff to remove, grid lines, I remove the legend here, I remove this x-axis, and here I name it sales by category, and I'll remove these buttons, right click, hide all field buttons on chart. I'll add the data labels, and I'll remove the border and the fill. So select the chart, Control and 1 on your keyboard. It's going to be no fill, no line here on the border. And then I'll just cut the chart and paste it here on the dashboard. And it's going to be right here just to be the same. And we might actually need more space, so I'll just give it more space here on the shape, and I'll increase the size of the chart just to fit the numbers here and look better. So as you can see here, we have an identical chart here to the one in the screenshot. And if we go to the shape format here, after selecting one of the shapes, and on the selection pane, this is the shape behind our chart. So I'll name it sales by category shape just to be able to identify it and to make selecting everything easier. And the chart, I'll just name it sales by category chart. And we can also select both by clicking on one of them and then holding control and selecting the other. We can align them, align center and align middle. So they've been aligned, and we can group them as well. And on the selection pane, you can also name the groups, by the way. So here, I'll just name this group top 10 products group, because this is the group that includes the top 10 products chart and top 10 products shape. And this group, I'll just name it sales by category. So now we'll create a pivot table for the sales by state in order to create this revenue or sales by state chart, which is a map chart. However, we do have an issue here with our data. So if we go to our data here, we will see that our states are written as the full name of the state without the state abbreviations. And we want to display actually the state abbreviations instead of the full names, because the chart is going to look ugly if we display the full names of the states. So let's see how we're going to do that. So let's create the pivot table first, and let's even create it with the state name, and then we'll swap it with the abbreviation. So I'm going to insert a pivot table here from a table range, and it's going to be based on the TBL sales. I'll click OK here, and then I'm going to put the state here on the rows section, and I'm going to put the sales amount on the summation of values section. And let's just format the sales figures. Right click, value, field settings, number format. We'll do a currency with 0 decimal places. We'll just choose the US dollars here. Click OK and OK again. Now we've formatted the sales in different states. Now, as you can notice here, we do have the states, but we have the full names of the states. And also, in order to create a map chart, we can't create it based on the pivot table directly. We need to actually take the name of the states here. So for example, we can take the name of the states, we can just highlight them and copy them and just paste values here for the name of the states. And then let's say that we would paste these numbers, copy and paste these numbers, and we'll paste values and number formatting. You can right click and paste values and number formatting. So paste special here, values and number formats, and click OK here. And this will paste the values and the number formats. So you can insert a chart this way, a map chart, and it will work, because if you actually try to insert it based on a pivot table, so if you go here, insert a map chart based on a pivot table, it will tell you you cannot create this chart type with data inside a pivot table. Please select a different chart type or copy the data outside the pivot table. So this is exactly what we're doing. We're going to copy the data outside the pivot table. But as you can see here, after creating the chart, if we click on this plus sign and on data labels, we're going to go to more data label options. And if we choose to show the category name, you can see here that it's going to show the full names of the states, which is going to be ugly. So we'd rather display the abbreviations for the states instead of their full names. So let's delete this chart for now. And in order to get the abbreviations, you can either go to Google, and maybe you can download them using Power Query from a web page, download a table containing the state abbreviations. Or there's even an easier method if you have Office 365, which is what I'm going to do here. You can select all your states here and then go to the data tab on the ribbon, go to geography, and here you can actually insert the state abbreviations. So I'll just delete the values because they're going to get in the way. And here you can click on this button here, insert data, and insert the abbreviation for the states. All right, so after getting the states in this form, which is the US and then dash and then the abbreviated form of the name of the state, we can actually, I'd rather merge these states and their names with the data on my data set here, so that I'd have everything built into the raw data, and then I can include these state abbreviations on the pivot tables if I need to for any reason. And I also need to remove this US dash prefix for the abbreviated names on the states, so that Alabama becomes just AL and Alaska becomes just AK, for example. And to do that, I'll just actually copy the names of the states and paste values, and I'll go back again here and just copy the abbreviated names of the states here and just paste them in front of them so they are in the same order and they are ordered correctly so that we have the correct abbreviation in front of each state. I'll name this new worksheet, I'll name it states, and I will just put a table header here. So this is going to be state, and then here it's going to be abbreviation. And now I can actually create a table out of this data. So I'll insert a new table here, or you can press Ctrl and T to insert a new table. And this table, I'll name it TBL states just to have an easy name to remember. It's always a good practice to name your Excel tables. And then I'll go to the data tab and I will actually import this table into Power Query. So I'll go data and then from table or range. And now we have this table imported into Power Query. So what we can do is that we can merge this table with the coffee shop dataset using the state name. Using the same state name that we have here, we can merge it so that we can have the state abbreviation as part of our dataset as well. So to do that, you can go to the coffee shop dataset and then go to merge queries here, and we'll merge the queries not as new because we want it to be part of the large data set that we have here. So we'll merge queries. So in order to merge the TBL states with the coffee shop dataset, we'll go to the coffee shop dataset and then we'll go to merge queries here, and we'll click again on merge queries. And here we are going to select that the common column will be the state column on the dataset, on the coffee shop dataset, and then on the TBL states, the common column will be the state column here. And as you can see here, it says the selection matches 250,000 of 250,000 rows from the first table, and it's going to be a left outer join. So we're simply just doing like a VLOOKUP in order to have these state abbreviations here be part of my data. And I'll click OK here, and now as you can see here, the states table has been merged with our table, with our coffee shop dataset table. We'll click on this button here and we'll choose the abbreviation to just keep the abbreviation column. And we won't be using the original column name as prefix because we want the column to be named abbreviation, not TBL states.abbreviation. And we'll click OK here. And as you can see here, we have the abbreviation, but we just have a small issue, which is we still have the US dash prefix here. So we're going to remove it by selecting the column here, and we're going to go to the transform tab here, and we're going to click on extract, and we're going to extract the last two characters. And we're going to click OK here. So now we've extracted the abbreviation and we've made it part of our original data set. So we're going to close and load, and then close and load 2 here. And we're going to only create a connection since we don't want the states table to be exported again to another Excel table. So only create a connection and click OK here. So as you can see here, now the coffee shop dataset is being updated with the new column. And as you can see here, now we do have the abbreviation column here as part of our original dataset. And now we can delete these values here, and we can even have the state abbreviation instead of the state. So we actually need to refresh our pivot tables. So right click refresh so that we'd have the state abbreviation here, and as you can see here we have it, and we can add it to the rows section. So now we have the pivot table for our states here, and in order to create the map chart, we're going to copy these state abbreviations here and paste them as values. And then what we can do is that we can do a simple lookup format. You can use VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP in order to look up these values. And maybe you can do an if error as well, so that for any reason if the state is not there, you would have a 0 value and then it would just appear as 0 on the map chart. So you can use XLOOKUP, for example, and the lookup value is going to be this one, and then the lookup array is going to be this one, and we'll be fixing the reference for it. And then the return array will be this one here, excluding the grand total, and we'll be fixing the reference for it as well. And then there's an option on XLOOKUP to use if not found, and if not found, so if it's like an if error basically. So if the value is not found, you just display a 0 and close the brackets, press enter. And if we just drag the formula down, you can see here that we now have the values that we have here on the pivot table. And this pivot table, we're going to name it PVT sales by state since we haven't renamed it. And this one, we should name it as well PVT sales by category. And this one, we should name it PVT top 10 sales, since it's always a good practice to rename your pivot tables to give them easy to remember and easy to distinguish names, because at a later point we're going to start connecting our slicers, and it's always a good practice when connecting your slicers to have the pivot tables named so that you would know which pivot table you're connecting to which slicer. Let's also give these numbers a currency formatting here, English, United States, and we'll give it 0 decimal places as well. And now we can start drawing our map chart. So I'll just name this state, and then I'll name this sales. And we can insert a new chart here, a map chart. And as you can see here, we managed to insert a map chart based on our data, and we're going to name it sales by state or revenue by state. They're both the same. I'll just remove this legend, and we can start adding more chart elements here, so more data label options, and we'll add the category name, and we don't need the value since the value will be determined by the colors here, so we'll know which ones are the highest values, the ones with the darkest color shades, and you can always hover over any of the states to know the value for the data point for it. We'll also press Ctrl and 1 when selecting the chart, and we will remove the fill and the line for the chart so that we'd make it transparent like this, and we will cut it and go to the dashboard and paste it here in the dashboard so that we would have it on top of this shape here, as you can see, so that we would create a similar look as the revenue by state here that we have. I think the shape on the original one was a little bit bigger, so make this a little bit bigger here, and we'll also align it with the shape. So align center and align middle so that both of them would be aligned with each other. And we can use the selection pane here to select. So here's the chart, sales by state map chart. And then here's the shape as well, sales by state shape. So we can select the map chart and the shape, and we can group them as well so that we'd make them one entity and they would move together like the other ones as well. All right, so we're making progress here on our dashboard. All right, so now we're going to create this donut chart here with these graphics. So in order to do that, we need to do some calculations to apply on that donut chart. So we'll go to our pivot tables here. We'll insert a new pivot table from a table or range, and we're going to insert it based on the TBL sales table, and we'll insert it here and click OK. And on this pivot table, we're going to have some summary values that won't be broken down by any dimensions, but they are just summary values in order to put on this donut chart here. So all these are just summary values, overall values, according to the filters that we've applied using the slicer, of course, but they are summary values. They are not broken down by anything other than the year and the month, basically. So in order to do that, we'll start inserting first of all a sales amount summary value here. So we'll put the sales amount on the summation of values section. We'll also put the total cost or the cost of goods sold, the total cost that we created previously using Power Query, which is by multiplying the unit cost by the order quantity. We're also going to put the discount amount as well. And we're going to calculate a profit using a calculated field on the pivot table. So go to the pivot table analyze tab here and go to fields, items, and sets, calculated field. And then we're going to calculate a profit. And the profit is simply going to be by subtracting the discounts from the sales amount and we're also going to subtract the total cost. So this is going to be our profit, and click OK here. This is going to be our profit. So our profit is simply sales amount minus cost minus discount, or sales amount minus discount minus cost, and this is going to yield our profit. We also want to count the number of orders that we have, so we're going to drag the sales order ID to the summation of values here, and since it's a text value, it will be counted. So we have 250,000 rows on our data set, and this is the number of orders that we have because each row represents an order. And as you can notice here, the values are not formatted, which is not a big issue because we're not going to use the values directly. So we're actually going to use them in other cells. So we're going to create other cells that would host these values. So we're going to create a cell for the sales, and then cost, and then discount, and then profit here. And the sales is going to be equal to this one, and the cost as well is going to be equal to the cost one, discount, and profit one as well is going to be equal to the profit one. So it's just an equal formula, and we dragged it, and we're going to make it a currency, which is the United States dollars. And now we can start creating our donut chart. So as you can see here, our donut chart simply gives us a summary that shows us our profit here. So the profit is the green one, the cost is the dark brown one, and the red one is the discount. So it shows us the profit, cost, and discount, and it shows us also the revenue, which is the summation of everything of the profit and the cost and the discount. So it shows us how our revenue or our sales amount is broken down or has been consumed. So part of our sales amount is consumed in discounts because we make discounts to the customers, which are a percentage of the sales amount. Then there's a cost as well that we would subtract from our revenue as well, and then we keep only the green part here, which is our profit. So maybe according to this chart, we need to reduce our discounts in order to increase our profit. And we will have the revenue here as a text box as well in the middle. So this is basically the full figure, and then it's broken down by these three figures here. So we will do that. So I'm going to highlight these three values here, and then go to the insert tab on the ribbon, and then insert a donut chart here. And for the profit, I'm going to color the profit as a green one here, and the cost is going to be the dark brown one. The discount is going to be a reddish one like this one. And I'll just call this chart here, I'll call it revenue summary, and I'll remove the fill and the outline. So press Ctrl and 1 and no fill and no line or border. And as you can see here, we do have the chart here. So this is the summary of the revenue. So we can actually cut the chart and paste it onto the dashboard here in the dashboard area. So I'll just move it here in the dashboard area, and it should more or less fit. If it doesn't fit, we can just increase the size of this rectangle shape here. And as you can see here, now it fits inside the rectangle. There is one small part, which is the revenue, the summary of the revenue here, which we can do by actually creating a formula, a text formula, so that we would have this value shown on a text box. Okay, so here's the formula that we'll be creating. So it's going to be equals revenue equal, and then there's a space here. We're going to put a space after the equal sign, and this is all between double quotes. So we're concatenating revenue equals space, and we're concatenating that onto the text function, having the sales figure inside it. So it's going to be having the sales figure inside it here as the value, and then the format is going to be a $sign space and then pound comma pound, and this will actually give us the number in dollars as a text. So if we press enter here, as you can see here, it's giving us a text with the number formatted as dollars. So this is custom number formatting. If you don't understand the text part and why the number formatting is written in this form, I do have a video about custom number formatting. I'll just leave you the link below if you need to watch it. It's a detailed video that explains almost everything about custom number formatting, and after watching this video, you're going to understand this format and everything. So if you're interested, you can watch it, and the link will be below in the description. But for now, you can just insert here a text box. So just insert the text box here and put it in the middle here. And I'll remove the fill and the outline of the text box. So no fill, no outline. And I'll make the formula for it to be equal to this cell here so that it would display the value. Now, it's not displaying the whole value, or it's displaying it actually on 2 rows, and it's too long. It's a bit too long. So we can actually click on the shape, press Control on 1 here, and we can go to this size and properties option, and we can make the margins 0 on all sides, and this will improve the situation a bit. And we can even, I think, changing it as well to a rounded shape would make it a bit better. Yes. So I've changed it to a rounded shape to make things better. And maybe we need to increase the size of the chart a bit so that it would host the value better. So you can keep playing with it, make it a circle, and make sure it looks good, basically. We can actually select the chart by going to Format, Selection Pane, and we'll select this chart here, and just to make sure that the legend appears as well. So I think this looks pretty good right now, and we'll just name, we can name this shape here, we can name it summary shape, and we pretty much have the same shape here. You can do some more adjustments in order to make it look better. You can do all these alignments and stuff. So shape format, you can align center, and align middle. So you can do all these alignments. So you can select the shape and you can select the chart and align them better. So align center and align middle in order for everything to be aligned better. And as you can see here, the alignment is much better right now. All right, so now we will start creating the icons for the donut chart. So we'll start by inserting the dollar icon. And to insert the dollar icon, we'll go to the dashboard worksheet and we'll insert an icon and we'll search for dollar, and we'll insert a dollar sign, and we'll change its color as well to green and adjust its size to match the one that we have on the screenshot. Now we will create the icons at the bottom, and these are basically icons and text boxes. The text boxes will be linked to numbers that will be produced using pivot tables. So let's see how we can create these icons and numbers. So we'll start by creating a pivot table that will show the split between cash and card payments. So we'll insert a pivot table here from a table or range, and this will be from TBL sales as usual. We'll click OK, and then we will put the payment method on the rows section, and we'll put the sales amount on the summation of values section. And we'll adjust the number formatting. So right click value field settings, number format, and this will be a currency with 0 decimal places, and we'll select US dollars and click OK and OK again. So now we've adjusted the number formatting, and now let's calculate the percentages. So we can write equals, and then we'll divide each number by the grand total, and we'll absolute the reference for the grand total, of course, and this will calculate the percentages of cash and card payments, and we will change the number formatting to a percentage as well. We will now insert the icons for the cash and card. So let's insert an icon here, and we'll start with the cash icon. So we'll type cash on the search box, and we'll insert this dollar bill icon here, the dark one, and we insert it, and we'll adjust its shape and change its color. And as you can see here, we got the same icon that we have on the screenshot, and we'll insert also a text box and remove the fill and the outline for the text box, and change the formula on the text box from the formula bar, so you can make that equal to the value of a cell, and this will make the text box display the value of a cell. So as you can see here, we're making it equal to the cash percentage to make it display the percentage of cash payments beside the cash icon. We'll also insert another icon, which is the card icon here for paying with a credit card, and we'll also change its color to match the color of the cash here by using the format painter. We'll adjust its size as well, and we'll just copy the text box for the cash payments, and we'll change the reference on the formula here to R17 instead of R18 in order to show the percentage of card payments. We'll also make sure to align all the shapes and text boxes that we inserted so that they look good. Now let's insert the pivot table to calculate the percentage of online and in-store orders. So we'll create it based on the TBL sales table here, and we'll put the in-store or online column on the rows section here, and we'll put the sales amount on the summation of values section, and we'll make sure to change the number format as well here. So value field settings, number format, and it's going to be a currency with 0 decimal places, and we'll click OK here, and now we'll be calculating the percentage of in-store and online orders here as we did with the cash and card payment orders, and we'll change the number format for the numbers here to a percentage. And then we'll basically repeat the process for inserting the icons for the store and the online purchases. So we'll start with the store icon, and we'll insert a store icon, as you can see here, and we'll adjust its size, change its color, and we'll also copy the text box that we have here and just change its formula, because this is easier than inserting a text box and removing the fill and border for it. So we'll just copy it and change its formula to point towards the in-store payments number here. And now we have an icon and a number, and we'll repeat as well for the online purchases. So we'll search with the word commerce to insert the online purchases icon here, and we'll adjust its size and color, and we'll be copying the text box as well, and we'll be adjusting the formula and doing alignments as well. Alright, so the last section we're going to create here is the customer experience section. To create this customer experience section, we need to create some pivot tables in order to do the calculations. So first, let's create a pivot table to calculate the average customer rating. So for the average customer rating here, we're going to insert a pivot table, and we're going to insert it based on TBL sales. And let's click OK here. And for that, we're going to put the customer rating on the summation of values section, but we're actually just going to average it. So we're going to average the customer rating and click OK here. And this will give us the average customer rating. Now, in order to create the stars that we have here, so these stars, we're going to actually use the REPT function. So equals REPT, and the text we're going to repeat is the star. And the star, we can create it by pressing the Windows and dot buttons on our keyboard, and then we can search for star, and we'll get the star here. So this is what we're trying to repeat. But we need to make sure, because it's a text, we need to make sure it's between double quotes. And then the number of times it's going to be repeated is the same number as the customer rating. But because this number is not an integer, we can make sure it's an integer. We can either round up or round down. It's really up to you and really up to how you want to do the calculation with doing integers. So 3.5 stars, do you want to consider it as 3 stars, or do you want to consider it as 4 stars, for example? So it's really up to you. I'll do a round down myself, and it's really up to you what function you would like to use. And if you don't understand the difference between the different rounding functions, I do have a video about rounding functions on the channel here that explains them in detail. It's a long video. It's about 45 or minutes or an hour. It explains all the rounding functions in Excel. So if you're interested in watching it, I'll leave you the link below in the description. So for the number of digits, it's going to be 0 digits because we want it to end up being an integer. So we want it to repeat this integer that we have here. And now because the average customer rating is 3 stars, it's given us 3 stars. And so we can go back to the dashboard and we can create the customer experience section. We can just create the header first. So insert, we'll insert a text box here, and we'll call it customer experience. And we can increase its size, just remove the fill and the outline as well. Let's increase its size. Let's make it bold, increase its size to 20. We can center it as well. So here's the customer experience section. And then there is an icon that we have here, which is simply an icon that we can insert. So insert icon, and I think I searched for customer. Yes, and this here's the icon that I inserted. This is our customer experience section, and then we can insert another text box. So here let's insert another text box that says customer rating. So customer rating. All right, let's remove the fill and the outline. Remove the fill, remove the outline. Let's increase the size to 18, for example. Let's bold it. Let's change the font, the color of the font to this one. And here is our customer rating. And then we can insert another text box as well to have our stars. So this text box as well, we'll remove the fill and the outline, and we're going to make it equal to what we have here. And here are our stars. We'll center them as well. We can select our text box and use this center to align, and then we can increase their size. Let's increase them to 18 or 20. And we can also go to the shape format. We can choose this word art style and then make the text fill yellow. And this is how we can match the look of this one. So you can change the size and move them around. That's fine. But I'm just showing you the idea of how to create that. And this is going to be dynamic depending on the slicers that we're going to place here. All right, so we've renamed it, and then we can create another pivot table to calculate the wait time, because there's also an average customer wait time. So we'll insert another pivot table here, and it's going to be based on TBL sales. Let's click OK, and then there is the wait time. So we're going to calculate the total wait time. This is the total wait time in seconds, and then to calculate the average wait time, we're going to divide this number by the number of transactions or the number of sales orders to get the average wait time, which is about 100 seconds. So this is going to be our average wait time. And we can go to the dashboard. Let's just copy this text box, and then it's just average wait time. It's just average customer wait time. And we can create another, we can actually just copy this one, copy this text box, and we can equal it to the number that we produced here. So it's actually not black, we want it to be black. I think there's a word art style applied, clear word art. So we want it to be black and bold and font size 18. This is good. This is going to be our average customer wait time. And then in order to create this last chart, we need to do a calculation. Now let's just insert another pivot table here. So the pivot table that we'll insert is going to be for the states. So this is going to be the wait time per state. It's just a heat map that shows the states with the highest wait times. The difference is not that large actually between the states, but it's just because it's fake data. So let's say you're trying to check the wait times in different states just to crack down on slow branches of this coffee shop chain in order to improve your service. So we're going to insert a pivot table from TBL sales, and we're going to put the state abbreviation, and we're going to put also the wait time, the customer wait time, and we're going to put the number of transactions as well, because we're going to copy the state abbreviations and then paste is the number formatting, and then we're going to divide the average the customer wait time by the number of orders to get the wait time across different states, which is about 100 seconds. In a real life data set, it's probably not going to be that close between the states, but as I told you, the data is fake. So we're going to insert a map chart. We've agreed before that map charts cannot be used with pivot tables. So this is why we're copying our data, and here is our chart. And we can just remove the title because we're going to insert another large title. So we probably don't need this one. And we can call it average customer wait time per state. And we can remove this one here. And let's just remove the background. And let's just remove the background of the chart to fill and the outline for the chart. And let's cut it and paste it here. And here is our average customer wait time per state. And we can increase this font size and we can change its color. So here it is. Now this section is done pretty much. You can do the alignments all you like. Align the charts, align the shapes, but it's pretty much done and you get the idea, I believe. Now the last step is to connect a slicer to all these pivot tables, or actually two slicers. So I'm going to insert a slicer here, and I'm going to insert the year and the month name. You can insert more, of course, but we're just showing you the idea. Let's start by connecting these slicers. So I'm going to right click on the first one here, right click on report connections, and then I'm going to connect it to all the pivot tables because it's actually going to filter all the pivot tables. This shouldn't be the case on all dashboards. You might not want to connect a slicer to all the pivot tables. You might want to connect it just to part of the pivot tables, not all of them. But in this case, we need to connect it to all of them. And this is why renaming the pivot tables comes in handy, because otherwise these pivot tables are going to have the names pivot table 1, pivot table 2, pivot table 3, and you won't be able to distinguish which pivot table is which. So this is why it's a very good idea to rename your pivot tables. Make sure that they have names that makes you able to distinguish them, because you might want to connect a slicer to just part of the pivot tables. You don't want to connect it to all of them. And this way, if you have them named, you'll be able to identify which pivot table is which. Okay, so I've connected both slicers to all the pivot tables. Now the last step is to create a custom slicer theme, because if I just cut the slicers here and paste them, you'll see here that they don't match the color of the background as we did have them here, matching the colors of the background, as you can see here. So it would be better to just give them a custom theme. Actually, we need to give them a custom color as well here. So for example, this dark red color would be very close to what we have here. And then we need to make sure that their background color matches the color of the background that we have here. So in order to do that, we'll create a new slicer style. So we're actually going to duplicate the style that we have here. So right click, duplicate, and this is going to be coffee shop, for example. You can name it whatever. And for the whole slicer, actually when I try to do it the color as no color, it doesn't work. I'll remove the borders as well, but it doesn't become transparent for some reason. And I'll do that for the header as well, and I'll just show you. it doesn't become transparent. I would expect it, I believe, to become transparent, but it doesn't become transparent. So the other option is to make it the same color as this thing, as the background, right? So this is the color of the background. This is the hex color. I'm extracting it using Power Toys, as I explained before on the video. You can just download the Power Toys application, and then use Windows Shift and C to extract the color of anything on your screen. It's very nice. So I'm gonna write. So I'm actually gonna go again to my custom slicer style that I created. So right click, modify, and for the whole slicer, I'll make the fill color the same as my background, right? So if I make this fill color the same as my background, and for the header as well, I'll make the fill color the same as my background. And I believe that's pretty much it for the changes that I've made. So I'll use this custom slicer theme, and I believe we might need to, I believe we might need to remove the border as well for both of them. So I forgot to press none here, and let's make sure to remove the border as well. None. Click OK and OK again. So as you can see here now, we do have the slicer with no border and with the same background color. We can right click on the year slicer, go to slicer settings, and on this year slicer, I actually choose not to display the header because it's very obvious that these are years, so there's no need to have a title of year on the slicer. And here's the year slicer, and here's the month slicer. We can even remove it from the month slicer as well. This is very obvious, this is the month. And we can increase the number of columns on the slicer just to make these months distributed like this. So as you can see here, we have pretty much the same look, except actually the years as well. I created multiple columns for them, so I'll make them 4 columns, just like the screenshot, to reduce their footprint a bit. So as you can see here, now we do have the years. The year slicer is working and is slicing all the numbers, and also the month slicer is working and it's slicing all the numbers. So which elements or tricks did you like the most about this dashboard? Please let me know in the comments below. I hope the video was useful for you. Please don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of future videos. Thanks, and I will see you on the next video.